Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Let's let everyone in. It's day 2 of Seven Figure Self-Image. I'm so happy to see so many of you here live. I know a lot of people are watching the replay. So if you're watching the replay, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And for those of you who are here live, welcome, welcome. I am so happy to see you. Like I said yesterday, I know sometimes we got to do these things when we're doing other things, but if you can be fully present, turn on your camera, let me see you, let me engage with you. I want to see your beautiful faces. Hey, Linda, I love it. I love it. We've got so many incredible souls hopping on today. I see a lot of people returning from yesterday, which is beautiful. Oh my gosh. All right. So for those of you who joined us yesterday, I would love to hear what were some of your biggest takeaways and ahas? Who wants to share? And you can type it in the chat or you can raise your hand. I really, like I said yesterday, I want to make this engaging and interactive. So who wants to share something you are taking away from this? And aha, Linda, I think I saw you raise your hand there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I loved when you said you don't get what you want, you get what you are. That was so like punch in the face for me. I love that.
Why was that? Why did that feel like a punch in the face for you?
Because I think a lot of what you said with, oh, you don't just put a vision board up there and look at things that you want and think that that's how you're going to manifest it, that you really have to change who you are inside
Yes.
and become that person. That was, that was just new information to me. I really loved it. And then it was great because then when I was doing the homework assignment, it wasn't just a homework assignment. It was really digging into creating this whole vision for myself and my life. And it was really lovely to just drink all that in. And I saw the purpose of it. So just loved the whole thing. Great job.
So good. I'm so glad it resonated. And that I think that was one of the biggest shifts for me in my life, because I used to be one of those people who, like I said yesterday, I would do all the tactical things. So I was certainly working hard. I was open enough to the mindset piece that I was like, okay, I'm going to make a vision board. I'm going to do the affirmations. I've heard from other people that this works, but I would look at it and nothing would happen. I would look at it and I would feel defeated, not good enough. It would feel distant. I never felt like I was achieving what I was actually putting on the vision board until I learned what you just said, Linda.
Yeah.
Everything was about shifting your self-image to be a match to what you want. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean, I thought I was, everything seems slightly out of reach, just in front of me, just around the corner, but always never with me. You know what I mean? Always just, so yeah, I'm totally looking forward to.
Yeah. Awesome. We're going to talk today. I'm going to teach you something I've never taught before. 7 steps to 7-figure self-image. So I'm going to take you through a framework. A key piece of it that I think is going to help you bridge that gap for Linda and for everyone here is learning to match the emotional state of it. And I'll talk about why that's important. We'll talk about how to do it. So that's really, really key and critical. Your emotional state really is so important when you are working on becoming that match. I see in the chat, Debbie says, biggest takeaway from yesterday to feel, hold on, somebody just moved out, to feel the emotions of a 7-figure earner. Beautiful. Again, we're going to talk about that today. So good. Kelly, no one's coming to give you permission to reach your goals. Oh my gosh. I love that you are that you're getting that now. It took me a long time to get that. When I got that, everything shifted. Everything shifted. So just for all of you remembering, a lot of this is subconscious. We don't realize we're doing it. But if you are waiting for someone to come tell you it's time, or you're good enough, or you're the one, it's not how it works. And this is how it works in sales too. We wait for clients to come and tell us that what we have is good. We wait for the numbers to come and validate you're worthy, you're $1 million earner, whatever it is. We have to make the shift. Your clients will mirror back to you your perception of how good or not good what you are offering is. For those of you who are entrepreneurs, this applies as well. If you're selling for an organization, your bank account will mirror back to you how abundant you feel and how worthy you feel of what you want. So it's all just a mirror. And it's so empowering, because when we know that and realize that, we can always look back to the source. Right? The law of cause and effect. We are the cause of everything happening outwardly in our lives. So if we want to shift something, what do we want to shift within ourselves? So we'll talk about that more today. Alyssa is saying now is the time really resonated for me. It's always been the time. It lit a fire for you. I'm excited. Well, I can't wait to see what unfolds for you over the next 8 weeks, because I know you're coming with us on the journey and meet the $1 million you. So that's beautiful. So let's do this. Let's see here. So today, like I said, I'm going to teach this framework, the 7-figure self-image framework. I think it's really powerful. And when I look back on my own journey, it happened so fast that I didn't quite get it at the time, but now I can look back and say, oh, these are the things that happened. And this is what had to be in place to go from saying I wanted it, but not achieving it, to actually having it be my reality. So we're going to do that. We're going to do some live coaching at the end as well. So I'm excited for that. I want to take a moment and just congratulate our 2 fast action winners from yesterday. And you all don't know that you're the fast action winners yet, but I get to announce, I think I saw you both live on the call. So these were the 2 people who signed up first for Meet the $1 Million You, kicking off next week. And I'm going to be recording a customized guided visualization and meditation for you based on your goals. So we've got Amanda Thomas in the house. So Amanda, I'm excited to work with you and get to know you and record this for you. And then Jen Maurerman, you are the other winner. So I will be getting with both of you as we kick off the program to talk about your goals, your vision, and then I'll record that custom meditation for you as well, which I'm really excited about. One thing I will say, and then we're going to get into the 7-figure self-image. For those of you who were asking about the program for next week kicking off, I don't think I shared this yesterday. We're capping it at 50 people and we're 20% full already, like before we publicly launch it. Like this is when we're publicly launching it. So if it is resonating with you, I'll share a little bit more at the end of today and I'll be happy to answer questions. Get signed up. I want to support you. I don't know when we're going to do it again, but I know I'm excited about it and lit up about it. So with that, my friends, all right, let's talk about these 7 steps to building a 7-figure self-image by Dr. Joe meditations. No, you're still going to do those, but you're going to layer this on top, right? We're going to layer this on top. I love me some Dr. Joe. All right, friends. So let's talk about this. Now, speaking of, this was actually not planned, but I love the way this works. This morning, I was listening to one of Dr. Joe's teachings, and he said something so powerful that I wanted to share with this group. And he said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Now, what is so powerful to me about this in the context of shifting your self-image to being a person, a leader who earns $1 million, who makes the impact you're looking to make, who lives life the way you want to live on your terms, is in that transition process, it will require you to step into a new version of you, because the current version of you, the current self-concept, is the one who's creating the results you're already getting. So if you want to create a different result, you're going to have to shift actually who you are and how you're showing up. And when we do that, it can feel, and it will feel, it's important to know this going into it, it will feel uncomfortable because you're suddenly showing up as a different person. The old version of you is comfortable, even if you don't love the results you're getting, even if you don't love what's in the bank account, you're familiar with it. Like, at least you can survive. So this is what is so important, is when we make that shift from no longer being okay with just survival to saying, this is my one precious life I get to live, at least in this physical body, right? And how do I want to live it out? And rather than focusing on survival, what would it look like to thrive? That's something that I ask myself a lot, because we've been conditioned for survival. We've been conditioned to just get by. And I do not want to look back at the end of my life and say, I played it safe, or I played small, or that I was on the defense rather than the offense in my life. I want to look back and say, I played full out and I saw what was the full extent of my capabilities in this life. And in order to do that, it requires a continual evolution of your self-concept to be someone who lives and leads and serves and receives at the level that you're wanting to do that. And when we do that, again, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel scary. This is something I tell my clients when they come into our programs, whether it's the mastermind or group coaching, or for those of you who are doing Meet the $1 Million You, like there's going to be a bit of a shakeup. And who in here has maybe experienced that already? Maybe you're in our programs and you've experienced that, or you're not, but you're like, hey, I've seen this in my own life. When I say yes to the new level, there's a shakeup. You're not, yeah. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong. So this is what's so important to remember. That's actually the sign that you're on the right track, because you're breaking old energetic bonds with what no longer serves, and you're willing to step into the unknown to create that next level version of you. But coming back to this quote, we can go into that change saying, ooh, this is scary. I don't know what's going to happen. Or we can say, no, I'm going to create my next level intentionally because I know what I want and I know what I'm creating, right? The best way to predict your future is to create it. So I think this framework will give you some steps that you can take. To me, it's the steps that I took. So I think this is very comprehensive in terms of creating that new future. So the first step is there has to be a very strong why and a very strong purpose behind what you're doing and behind making the change. So again, 7 steps to 7 figures here, 7-figure self-image. There must be a very strong why and a very strong purpose. Reason being exactly what we just said. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to challenge your old ways of thinking. You're going to have to challenge your old self-concept and say, is that really true? Is that really the best of me? Or is there a different way I want to show up? You're going to have to challenge everything you were taught growing up. Is that really how money works? Is it really true that I have to work hard to make a lot of money? Does everyone who makes a lot of money work really hard? Right? So there's a difference between universal truths and personal truths. So a universal truth is something like the law of gravity. We all have to play by it. Right? No one escapes that one. But then we have these personal truths that we believe to be true. Some people believe 6 figures is a lot of money. Some people believe $50,000 is a lot of money. Some people believe, $1 billion would feel like a lot for them. It's all relative. So if it's not the same for everyone, it doesn't have to be your truth if you no longer desire it to be. So remembering though, in this process, because it's going to require you to get so conscious to who you've been being, how you've been showing up, how in alignment or not in alignment you've been with the version of you who creates the goals you're looking to create, which is why I had you do that exercise last night. It's going to get uncomfortable because you're going to be stepping into a new identity. The thing that will pull you through that is having a strong enough why and purpose behind what you're doing and reattaching to the vision continuously, which is why the very first thing we're doing in Meet the $1 Million You is helping all of you crystallize your vision so clearly, because we have to be able to come back to that again and again. And I was sharing this with my mastermind last week, like when we are in doubt, when we are in fear, when we are questioning whether or not our vision is going to happen, it's because we've lost sight of the vision. It's because we've gotten too busy looking around us at what's happening, at what is or isn't in the bank account, at how many discovery calls are or are not on the books, at current relationships or lack thereof. We have to remember what is in your physical 3D world right now is the last step of creation. So this is all old news. So if you keep focusing on it, you're going to keep getting more of that because you are a creator, and whatever it is that you focus on, you're going to get more of. So we have to remember that because we are creators, anything that exists in this planet, it existed first in thought form. Whether it was the computer that I'm, talking to you on right now, the dress I'm wearing, the pen you're holding, if you're taking notes, it was a thought first. So if we want to create something new, we want to get a crystal clear vision in our mind of what we're creating. And it has to have such a strong, for this type of shift to happen, the type we're talking about here in this group this week, it has to have such a strong purpose behind it, that you are willing to do the work to come back to that vision again and again, and to realize that it is as real as everything in your physical world. All you're doing is you're turning it from a concept, from an idea, into your physical reality. All right, that's it. But that is remembering that you are a creator, and that's how you're going to do this. All right, that's how you're going to do this. You're not going to do it if becoming, who in here, show of hands, or type yes in the chat, who in here feels like becoming the $1 million version of you would be a quantum leap? Would that feel like a quantum leap? Because some of you, it may be like, no, it's actually like, I've already run the numbers and it's going to happen this year. Cool. If that's the case, I would actually encourage you to think way bigger. But I'm seeing a lot of yeses. So if it is feeling like a quantum leap for you, it's not going to be you doing more of the same. It's not about just doing more of the same harder. That's why I don't agree with hustle culture, because I hustled for a long time and I found myself with health conditions, getting the same results over and over again. A lot of emotional angst and anxiety around that. I would get up at 2:00 in the morning. So I was like, well, if I want to make more, I just have to work harder. Not the case. I kept getting the same results because, again, my self-image was that of a 6-figure earner. So scaling here, shifting from whatever current version of you to the 7-figure version of you. It's a new identity. It's a new self-concept. And there has to be a strong enough why behind it for you to be willing to make that shift, and for you to be willing to show up in a different way. So that's the first thing I would check in with, like, how strong is the why for me? I say this in my keynote when I'm working with organizations, like, your must will move mountains. So for anything that you say you want in your life that hasn't happened yet, it just hasn't been a must for you yet. And that's okay. Like, it's not, I'm not saying you should make yourself wrong for it. But if this is a quantum leap for you, it's going to have to be a must. It's going to have to be a must. So what is the why, the reason behind it? And for me, it was just, I was like, gosh, I'm sick of getting the same results over and over. And again, reading that book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, I just really got like my mortality in a different way. And I thought, I don't want to go to my grave. Would I want to die? Would I feel good about my life if I died tomorrow? Was kind of, I was like, I mean, I feel okay about it, but I knew there was a calling on my life and a purpose so much bigger that I wasn't living out. And who can relate to that, to say, you know what, if I died tomorrow, I actually would feel like I had not fulfilled my biggest calling and purpose here. So it's like, not to be morbid, but this is so important for us to remember. It's a powerful decision-making tool to say, what decision would I make if I remembered that someday I'm going to die? And this is actually something I learned from an 8-figure entrepreneur. And she said, this is one of the key things that has contributed to the success in my life. Is she said, I remember I'm going to die someday. And that's how I make my choices. Oh, it's good, right? Because if we forget that, we're going to it's like, oh, I've got all the time in the world. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, right? None of us have all the time in the world. So that's it. Number 1, very strong why, purpose, and clear vision. Now we're going to get into, we talked yesterday about your self-image, your thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? Those are the things that comprise your self-image. So we're going to talk about your thoughts. So the second step in crafting your seven-figure self-image is starting to think like the 7-figure version of you. I found these earrings. Let me take a sip of water and then I'll tell you. I found these earrings that I love that I'm going to buy as a little reward for myself when I hit a certain goal in my business that say, question everything. And I love these earrings. I love this message. Who in here loves that message of question everything? Right? Like I said yesterday, you've been programmed, my friend. There's a lot of things that you believe that have to be true for you that don't actually have to be true for you. Again, just because you think a thought, it doesn't mean it's true necessarily. So you have to start to actually listen to your thoughts. This is a concept in neuroscience called metacognition. And it's getting aware, is the thought that I was just thinking actually the most supportive thought towards me achieving this goal? So if we remember and believe that our desires are green lights and that whatever the vision is, whatever the desire is that's flowing through you is coming through you for a purpose. It's not by accident. It's coming through you because you can create it. That's the only reason it's there. Then we want to start to look at, are the thoughts that I'm thinking in alignment with the version of me who has this end result created? Or are they not? So we have to get very conscious. And this is something I'll ask myself every day. And I'm not perfect with any of this. Like, I am on my own journey too, with all of you. I'm going for another level goal in my life right now. So I'll have thoughts come up that aren't in alignment with it. I know I'm not in alignment with it yet, because if I was, it would have happened in my life, but I'm enjoying the process and the journey. So we don't have to like beat ourselves up over this. We get to enjoy the becoming process along the way. But I'll think a thought and then I'll ask myself, is that thought the thought of someone who has this end result achieved? Is this thought the thought of someone who is at the 7-figure level, right? So you can ask yourself that. Or if not, what would they be thinking? So this is part of the power. Yes, Laura, I love what you're putting in there in the chat. This is, to me, the power of mentorship. This is why I'm always looking to hire mentors who are at the level that I want to be at. And whether you hire me as your mentor or somebody else, I don't care. Get a mentor who is not only, I would say, get someone who not only has the results that you desire in your business or in your sales career, but also emulates the type of life you want to live. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but has the type of life you want to live in terms of, are they happy? Are they fulfilled? Are they, if you don't want to hustle your way there, like, are they a proponent of hustle culture? Are they not, right? I always look to hire mentors based on how they think. And for me, that was a huge shift. And that was a key element of what created the financial quantum leap for me from 6 to 7 figures. Is I hired a mentor who was already at the level I wanted to be at. It was an incredibly stretchy investment. For those of you who know my story, I'd made $100,000 the year before, and it was $50,000. I didn't have the money sitting around, but it was a must for me. So I found a way, and I put a deposit on a credit card. I was like, I believe in myself and trust myself enough to do this. But I hired her not because I wanted her to give me a bulletproof strategy. I wanted to learn how she thought, because I knew that there was a difference in her thinking versus my thinking. And if I could just learn to think how she thought, I could get a different result. So this is so important, is thinking thoughts, like questioning everything about how you're thinking, and then starting to get some clarity. How would the version of me think who's already at this level? This is something else I teach my clients to do, is have a board of advisors. So I have this little sticky note here on my computer, and it's my board of advisors. And I would say, like, some of them I have actually paid for mentorship. Some of them I follow online. Some of them are dead. But I love both the results that they got in their life and also how they think and their way of being. And I know I want to emulate that. So I'll ask myself, if I'm faced with a decision or something where I'm like, I'm at a crossroads, what would so-and-so do here? Or what would so-and-so do here? It's such a powerful concept. Keep it limited, keep it to like a couple people. Maybe I've got 8 on there right now. I probably need to like hone it in a little bit, because I think that's probably too much. But it's your personal board of advisors. And that's a really key element, is you have to start to think differently. Third step, your feelings. And I love that some of you mentioned this today. Your feelings matter so much. So for those of you who were there yesterday live, I talked about, we had just had Dr. Joe Dispenza's head of research on as a guest mentor for our 50K Club Mastermind yesterday. And she was talking about the power, the magnetic pull behind your emotions. So we're going to go quantum physics here for a minute. And this is something that has also changed my life, studying this, learning this. I include this in my programs. It's so important. So you are an electromagnetic being. We live in an electromagnetic world. The earth has an electromagnetic field around it. You also have an electromagnetic field around you. Your thoughts are the electrical charge. So when you think a thought, it's an incredibly powerful electrical charge. It sends the signal out into the universe of what you want. So again, that's why we don't get what we want. We get what we are, because whatever you're thinking about The universe is responding. Yes, yes, yes. So if you're thinking about what you actually want, good. That's why we want to be very conscious of our thoughts. If you're thinking about what you don't want, you're also sending that out into the universe as I want this. That's the electrical charge. But then your emotional state, your feelings, that's the magnetic charge that draws the event back to you. So this is something I think about a lot is how strong is my magnet today? Have you ever had one of those days, even if you haven't really studied this before, or maybe this is a newer concept, I'm sure you have had an experience where it was just one of those days where like you were feeling so good and everything just felt like it was flowing and you were grateful for life. And it just seemed like everything around you was just working for you. You ever had one of those days where it's like traffic was easier? Maybe you got I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding. You got an unexpected client. Money showed up, an opportunity showed up, or it's like things like your kids were nicer to you that day. That was your magnet. That was your feeling state. Or have we ever had a day, and I'm sure you've had this as well, where you just were not in a good mood and you just weren't feeling good. And it was like everything around you that day was conspiring against you. It was just maybe, again, traffic was really full. You couldn't get to where you wanted to go on time. You were late. You're in a bad mood. People around you seem in a bad mood. Who in here has had one of those days too, right? So it's the same. And this is part of what's beautiful. When we learn to play by these rules, we can create whatever we want. We just have to remember the key elements to creation here. So are your thoughts in alignment with what you're looking to create? And then number two, your feelings, your emotional state. And this was so powerful for me because I didn't know this. I didn't get this for most of my life. And I lived most of my life with low grade anxiety. I wasn't aware that my heart was closed off, but it was. And when I started doing this work and learning, not just learning this intellectually, but learning how to embody it and learning how to shift my emotional state before I had had any changes in my outer environment, because I started to understand this. Oh, the outer just mirrors the inner, which is how I'm thinking and feeling. And I started feeling worthy, and I started feeling abundant, and I started feeling grateful. Nothing had shifted yet in my outer world. But for me, it was a 6-week process. And I don't want you to compare like, oh, it has to happen in that time frame, because that was pretty fast. I think there's a lot of variables in there. But that in 6 weeks of making those shifts, that was when I went from 6 to 7 figures in earnings. But I felt worthy first. I felt abundant first. I felt in love with myself first. I felt proud of myself first. I felt like that next level version of me first. And from that place, when more opportunities started coming in, more money started flowing in, if you've had this experience, you know what I'm talking about, and it's okay if you haven't, it almost didn't matter. It almost didn't matter, because what you really want, the reason you want more money is you want that feeling of freedom. If the money didn't come with an emotional pull, it wouldn't do anything for you. If a sports car didn't make you feel cool or excited, it would just, if there was no emotional charge connected to what you're seeking, you wouldn't want it. So when we realize that whatever the goal is, it's not actually that thing. It's how you think it's going to make you feel. We can hit the emotional state first. And then from that place, we become a match. From that place, we pull it to us because your magnet is turned on. So this is so beautiful and so powerful. And the other reason we want to learn to really monitor our emotions, and it doesn't mean you have to be perfect with this, okay? You don't. But we want to learn to shorten the time period in which we live in the lower level emotions and get back into that beautiful state faster. But the other reason why this is so important is that neurologically, you can only think to the level that you are feeling. So your thoughts will always match your emotional state. So if you are feeling disempowered, you can't have a thought that's going to actually lead you to something empowered from that state. If you are feeling unworthy, you're not going to have a thought that leads to abundance from that state. So this is something I tell my clients all the time is when we start to question our thoughts and check in with our thoughts, what was the emotional state you were in when that thought triggered? Was it one of happiness, joy, abundance, gratitude? Cool. If so, we want to lean into that, right? We want to trust that and follow that. But if you were in a state of fear, if you were in a state of self-doubt, if you were in a state of anxiety, if you were in a state of resentment, anger, we don't trust our thoughts from those states. They're not going to get us to where we want to go, and they're not your highest and best good. So this is why embodiment is so important. And you must, if you're going to do this the way that I'm going to encourage you to do it, which isn't that just work harder for 20 years and then maybe you'll get there, but like, no, let's have a real quantum leap. Thoughts, we want to get those in alignment, and feeling state. We got to feel it first. So that's, I think it's week 3 of Meet the $1 Million You. It's all about embodiment and how to access and tap into those feelings now and embody it now. Because we get addicted to the old emotions because they feel like us. So we've got to create a new emotional signature for your body. And this requires, again, massive awareness, but it's beautiful because the side effect of all of this is that along the way in your journey, you start to transform how you feel. And I have had clients, and a client say this to me recently. I'm not sure if she's on today or not, but she was like, I don't know she was like, is something wrong? She was like, she'd spent so many years of her life in anxiety. And she was like, suddenly everything is so beautiful. And she would look at her kids and just start, they used to, stuff with all of us as parents, sometimes you get agitated, but she was like, now I look at them and they're so beautiful. And I'm crying tears of gratitude. I was like, yeah, that's it. So you can shift that. It all comes from within you. So that's the third is feelings. Number 4, your actions. This is key. Again, we're not just sitting and thinking about it and feeling. I mean, you can attract some pretty cool stuff that way, but action opens you up to receive. So we must take action towards our goals. The key though is nailing, or you're not going to nail it probably on the first try. That's okay. Starting to raise your level of consciousness in terms of your thoughts and elevating your emotional state more consistently. And then from that place, you're going to take a different level of action. So when I went from 6 to 7 figures, 6 figures was a lot of busy work. It was a lot of hustle action. It was a lot of just doing more of the same. 7 figures was far more expansive. It was actually less action, but it was more expansive. So it was, I'm going to host a group. Like I'd never done one of these. And I was scared, like, will anyone show up? Are people going to want to listen to me? Are people going to want to join my programs? So I had a ton of self-doubt about it, but I did it anyway. And I started running, a live training and a webinar, and started inviting people in and offering a new program. And these were all things that I would not have done as the old self concept. So it was action that challenged me. It felt uncomfortable, but it wasn't just more of the same. And I actually work far less now than I did when I was a 6-figure earner. So this is really important to remember. I firmly believe it is easier to go to 7 figures than to 6, but we want to shift your self-concept along the way. Okay. So I work half days, most days right now. But the actions I take are more intentional. They're stretchier. And now I'm doing 8-figure things. So I'm like, okay, how does an 8-figure CEO, how does she act? What does she do? And it's different. So it's always challenging the old way you used to show up. A really powerful, thank you, Laura, for putting that in there. A really powerful tool is decision-making from the end. So when you are faced with what action you're going to take, you want to ask yourself, what would the version of me who already has this result created do? And so this was why, for me, again, part of my quantum leap experience was I invested very uncomfortably in mentorship. But I remember I had heard somewhere along the line, you should invest 5 to 10% of what you want to make this year into mentorship. And so when I was faced with the opportunity to work with a mentor who I felt aligned with, and at the time, it was a $50,000 investment to do 6 months. And it was very uncomfortable, but I said, well, If I want to make $1 million, what would I invest? There you go. Right. So you can do this with mentorship. You can do this with all things. What decision would I make from the end result already accomplished? And this is so powerful because then we stop doubting ourselves. We're like, well, of course I know what I would do. Right. You already know what you would do. You're just letting self-doubt creep in. So decision-making from the end. Number 5, willpower. This is critical. We create in time lag. So there is going to be a period of time that elapses from when you start to actually go on this journey. You make the decision, now I'm becoming the 7-figure me. I'm becoming the $1 million me. And you start to think differently and you start to feel differently and you get way more aware. And then you start to act differently. There is still a period of time that must elapse between which you make that decision and you start to see the outer change. All right. We don't control the time period. So this is the law of gestation. And this is why faith is so important and why willpower, the will to hold the vision of what you're creating long enough that it can actually manifest for you. So we know how long it takes for a baby to gestate. We know how long it takes for plants to be planted and come up, depending on the environment. We know how long. The only thing we don't know how long it's going to take is your vision. There's a lot of factors that come into play with that. We don't have time to get into all of that today. There are so many factors that come into play with it, but one of the ways you can bring it most quickly into your world is by doing the steps I just told you above. So you want to think as though it's already done, act as though it's already done, feeling is key. Again, we're pulling it back to us that way. Feel as though it's already done. That's the fastest path, but there's still a time period that has to elapse. So again, I think mine was really fast, but I was ready because I had studied this enough to know what it was going to look like and to have faith when the massive self-doubt appeared, because it did. I would have days where I was like on my knees. What have I done? Have I just put my family's future at stake? Have I made a terrible decision in investing in myself? What am I doing? Who am I to think I'm the one to do this? So I had that pop up and I had to come back to this again and again and again. And it's that willpower to hold the vision and to come back to what is true for you, what you know is true, which is studying this, right? And if you feel called, getting mentorship in this to help you along the way, it's so important because there is a period of time that must elapse. So the key is just knowing that and remembering that. But knowing that it has to, by law, when you get that clear intention of what you want to create and you start showing up in this way around it and you decide, no, this is happening for me, by law, it must happen in your life. You just don't control the time frame. But when we remember that, we get to almost sit back and be like, I'm so excited to see, not sit back because you're actively every day showing up for yourself, but there is a level of relaxation with it. There is a level of calm and patience and faith and excitement. Like, ooh, let's see what happens today. I'm doing my part. My part is I hold the vision, right? I start to feel as if it's already done. And then I just take the action steps that show up along the way, aligned action. Step number 6, you're going to notice the inner shifts. So this is, how do you know if you're on the right track? Because there is a period of time lag that will elapse. Inner shifts first. Are you feeling better? This is it. This is what I look for with my clients. If they're like, oh, it hasn't happened yet. I haven't made the sale yet. I haven't done, it's like, I don't care. Are you feeling better? If you are feeling better, you're on the right track. Who here understands this? I'm seeing some heads nod who I know have been clients, right? Or are clients right now. Yeah. I saw someone put Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. Yes, that is the key. That is the key. So are you feeling better? If you are feeling better, even just a little bit, maybe you're moving from a more consistent state of self-doubt to a state of just calm, open-mindedness, you're on the right track. Right. So this is something else I teach my clients is the emotional scale. It's like the closer we get to the emotion of whatever emotions that you're looking to feel with you stepping into the $1 million version of you. So actually just put some of those emotions in the chat. What are you looking to feel? Is it freedom? Is it gratitude? Is it joy? I'm seeing expansive, empowerment. Yes. The more you practice that, the emotional scale Linda, it's something that I'm not the only one who teaches it. There's a lot of people out there who teach it. It's basically, we live on a ladder of emotions. And we tend to have a set point that we live at emotionally, but it can range all the way from joy, freedom, empowerment, all the way down to grief. Grief is one of the lowest level ones, grief and disempowerment. And we tend to be on this scale. So there's tools and tricks we can use to get higher up on the scale. So we have to be so aware of where we're living. Because you can only, again, draw back to you things that are a match for that emotion that you're putting out. Let's see here. Clarity, relaxed, freedom and joy, inner peace. Yes. So when you start feeling those more, you're on the right track. And then the 7th step is the outer transformation. You actually meet the $1 million you, and your physical world shifts to mirror back who you've been being, your self-concept. So this is the practice. Again, when you do this the way that I'm teaching, it will be like an of course. This is also how you know you're on the right track, is it hasn't happened yet, but it feels very natural. Like I used to, the goal that I'm going for right now used to feel pretty far off and pretty unnatural and big. I've practiced it enough in my mind right now that it actually feels very natural, to the point where I have certainty it's happening. I don't care when. I know it's going to happen. If it's a couple years, if it's less, if it's more, I don't care. I'm excited to become the version of me who actually creates this in her world. And that's what I'm focused on. So that's really the prize, but your outer must shift to mirror your inner state and how you're being. So, Jess, what's the goal you're going for right now? Or do you share that? Yeah, sure. 8 figures. So we're building, and I think we'll build beyond that. For me, it's about the impact. I mean, it's like, am I excited for that level of abundance? Yes. But to me, it's way more at this point about how much impact can I have, and how many lives can we touch, and what sort of a legacy can I live with my life? And I know that doing that, it's just a quantifier. Again, they figure it's just a quantifier, like, okay, I'm continuing to make bigger impact in the world. So I think through that lens now, and I make decisions through that lens. I hope that helps. I've done this in other areas of life. I'm getting what you're teaching. Yes, Debbie, that is so important, is like, apply this from some other area where you've gotten it to this area. It's so powerful. You've all done this in another area. So that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you're getting this. So let's do this. Let's take just a couple minutes. Oh, man, like, gosh, I could spend another hour with all of you easily. Let's take just a couple minutes. We're going to just recap what's happening next week, what's kicking off. We've got a bonus that's good through today. And then I want to open it up for coaching with anyone who wants coaching on whatever's shown up for you, and what you need support around with this concept. So if you weren't here yesterday, I'm super excited. We are launching a really, really beautiful program next week called Meet the $1 Million You. It's going to be an 8-week immersive journey and experience to help take you from where you are right now to the $1 million version of you. It's going to be a combination of mindset. So everything we talked about today, getting you clarity on the vision, then what are the thoughts of someone who's at that level? What are the feelings? And then also, what are the actions? So we're doing all of it. So I'm going to be working with each of you custom, depending on where you are right now and what your goal is, to craft the thoughts, get in touch with the feelings, and then also craft out the tactical strategy for how you're actually going to do this in your world. So that's part of what's beautiful. Like when you're going for the next level goal, you don't need to know the how. But part of the how can be get with a mentor who knows how to do it, or who's done it before and can give you the steps. This is part of why I hire my mentors and how it works. So we have $500 off through the end of the day today. You can go to, Laura, if you could just type in the chat, elisearcher.com/$1 million you. That's the program page. The code MillionVIP will get you $500 off. It's a $5,000 program. This first enrollment of it, we're doing it for $3,997, but you can do $500 off through the end of the day today with that code MillionVIP. It's open to all. We've got a lot of men in the community who have been like, when are you doing something for us, Ben? And I'm so excited for this. This is open. So if there's the men who are on the call, or if there's a special man in your life where you're like, man, like, I know he wants to meet the $1 million version of himself too. Cool. bring them in. We're capping it at 50 people. Like I said, we're 20% full already on that. So I love going deep with my clients. I want to partner with you on this journey if you want more support in this area. We do have financing options available. So if you need help with the money piece, I'll actually grab the link and pop that in there too. Give me just a second. I'll do that in a minute. And then what else? Oh, if you want to have a chat with a member of my team about the program, about what we're doing, then just send an email to elise@elisearcher.com. Say you want to hop on a call and we'll schedule a call and a time to talk through everything with you. Maria, I'm enrolled and looking forward to it. Yes, I know. I'm so excited to working with you. There's a number, who in here is doing it? Either way, there's a number of you I know who are already enrolled. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. It's going to be so beautiful and so powerful. So yeah, and if you have questions, you can email elise@elisearcher.com. We would love, love, love to have you there as well. Okay, awesome, Laura. Thanks for putting that. And that looks like it may be the full enrollment page. So I'll pop the link in there as well below. Oh no, never mind. That worked. Okay, awesome. Yeah, elisearcher.com/$1,000,000U. All good, all good. Let's open it up for coaching. Who wants some coaching around what showed up for you over the past 2 days around stepping into your 7-figure self-image? It can be based on the homework last night. It can be based on what we talked about today. You can just raise your hand if you'd like some support and some coaching around what we've talked about. I would really encourage you, take advantage. And your question, I promise it's going to help somebody else. So this is something I love, is working with you specifically on your goals. So I know there's got to be some questions. I mean, y'all, I can keep going if there's no questions, but I would imagine we have a question, or who's like, man, I crafted my 7-figure self-image, but it feels distant. It feels, it feels out of reach. Anyone there? I'm going to type a few notes in the chat while we have people raise their hand. Are there no questions? I always get questions. Debbie says, what if the action is a leap for my current followers? Tell me, do you mind coming off mute and telling me what you mean by that?
Sure. So I'm thinking, while you're talking about this, I'm like, I can see some actions I might be willing to take here, and I'm looking at them, and then my mind says, but will those that trust me now go away? Will I need to be ready for a new audience? Can you speak to that?
I mean, maybe. So not maybe, yes, I can speak to it. Will they go away? Maybe. So when you elevate your self-concept and when you start showing up in a different way in your life, that which is no longer a match will move away. Now, it doesn't have to be traumatic. It doesn't have to be negative. It can simply be that something just shifts out. But when we remember the vacuum law, which I think you and I talked about a while back, right? Vacuum law of prosperity, which is the universe abhors a vacuum. The only reason it's shifting out is so that something that's of a better and higher nature that's in alignment with how you're showing up now can move in. So that's why we want to remember, this is why I work with my clients on understanding universal laws and how things work in this way, because at first it can appear like, oh, what happened? I have been working with this client for years and they just canceled. What? Right? Nothing wrong. All they're doing is making space for a new client who's like, hell yes, about paying your new rates or going on the journey with you. So this is something that's so important. This is something I teach, especially my clients who are like service providers, coaches, consultants. You want to have the belief that your clients will do what it takes to be in your energy. So for your ideal clients, they are going to do what it takes to be in your energy. And as you elevate your energy, your ideal client profile will shift, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I would shift it. I think that's a beautiful question, Debbie. I would shift it to simply an excitement of, ooh, like who's going to show up to be in my tribe now? Like who's going to show up to follow, to work with me now? All right. And it's all good. Right.
That really helps. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, you're welcome. Jan, how do you fight through the fear? Can't talk. Okay, great. I would say a couple things. I would encourage you to not think about it like fighting through the fear, because if we feel like we have to fight it, we actually just add fuel to it. So what you resist persists, right? So if you're like, man, I feel a lot of fear around this, and I just need to I could just get rid of this fear. You're just adding more energy to it, and you're just going to grow it because you're putting more attention on it. So I would simply notice it. Oh, it's so interesting. Fear is showing up. Okay, cool. What's the thought that I just thought that triggered the fear? Right? Because again, we have these emotions we live by, but they're triggered by our thoughts. So when you think a thought, it triggers a chemical reaction in your body that you experience as an emotion. Now, over time, again, you get used to feeling certain emotions. So this is when the body becomes the mind. And if you're used to living in a state of fear, your body's going to send signals and thoughts up to your body like, ooh, let's think some more fear-based thoughts, because this is how I know myself. This feels natural and normal for me. So it requires a great deal of self-awareness to be able to question it and say, man, I just was thinking this isn't going to happen. Or I just was thinking something's going to happen to the bank account or whatever it is. Your emotions are your body's way of telling you how close to your truth you're thinking. So the better we feel, the higher and closer to the higher and more truthful our thoughts are about what's really possible for us, about who we really are. So if we're thinking thoughts of fear that create fear, then we're thinking thoughts that aren't actually true for us. And this is really beautiful when you learn this. So we just question it, but we don't make it wrong. You know, when I feel lower level emotions, I don't love it, but I've learned to look at them. Who wrote The Secret? Rhonda Byrne. She talked about her mentor taught her this, and I don't know who her mentor is, but I've used this and it works really well. The welcoming ceremony. If I feel a negative emotion showing up, rather than shutting it away and making myself wrong for it, you want to just imagine like your doorbell rang to your house and there's a little child outside, and it's a scared little child, or it's an angry little child. And what are you going to do when they show up outside your door? Are you going to push them away? Are you going to say, God, just get out of here? Are you going to fight with them? Or are you going to comfort them? Are you going to open your arms? And so you literally just envision yourself opening your arms and embracing them. Like this is something we do with he'll be 3 in a couple of weeks. Like when he's feeling scared or feeling angry or upset, it's like, let me just love on you. Let me just pour love on you. And it shifts. The emotion shifts. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do. And that's how we start to recondition ourselves to a different emotional state that's actually in alignment with what we want to experience. You get your body used to, it's like, it's not a big deal when those things show up. I just love on them and I move through them. Right. Who else has a question? And again, you can raise your hand. I love working with you live. So good. Thanks. Oh, good, Jen. I'm glad that helped. Yeah. Don't fight it. Let it be. It's all good. We let it be. But then we also realize we're not having our most intelligent thinking in that moment. So that's where we want to come back to questioning our thoughts. Was that really true? Who has a question about what we talked about? Jen, I was so funny. I was like, I bet Jen has a question.
So, of course.
By the way, I'm so excited you're joining us next week.
Me
Kicking
too.
off. Yeah.
Me too. Thank you so much for hosting this. This is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this will obviously be a part of the course as well. So I apologize in advance if you are sharing some secrets. But no, I just think I've always admired you over the years of really honing in on your vision and holding it strongly. Do you have any tips of like for you that works for you yourself on how you hold that vision so strongly?
Yeah. So for me, it's a daily thing. That's part of, to me, the power of meditation visualization is coming back to it every day and making the time for it, which I get in a different way now. People are like, I don't have time to meditate. Like now that for those of you who know our story, like I'm taking care of the boys solo while my husband is up in Maine, and we'll get everyone up there. And And I know there are other people who have way more challenging demands on their time too. So it's none of it is an excuse. We can't let it be an excuse. It's about knowing that you are worthy of carving out the time to realign with that vision every day and get reconnected with the vision. But the key is not just meditating or visualizing or doing your self-image statement or whatever the thing is that you're going to do to check the box, because that doesn't actually do anything. It's doing it with a level of intention where you're like, no, I'm going to connect with this emotionally and I'm going to feel it like it's already done. Right. So this is something that I'm noticing in my own life. It's like, wow, I'm stepping into a whole new level of self-love, which wasn't natural for me for many years of my life. But I know that the woman who I've fallen so in love with myself as I've been on this journey over the past few years. And I also am aware that there's a higher level of self-love that I'm excited to tap into now. That is on par with the woman who has the results I'm looking to create in the world. So when I'm visualizing those results, not only am I just thinking about them, but I'm actively bringing up that feeling in my body. Self-love. It could also be gratitude, worthiness. And then from that state of openness, that's actually where the beautiful ideas flow that will give you the next steps to take to make that your reality. So yeah, does that help in terms of staying attached to the vision?
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. That's beautiful. Thank you
Amazing.
so much.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. We've got time for maybe one more question. Does anybody else have a question or even a takeaway? Debbie, say I'm going to let
Question.
Michael. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't see who spoke, but please. Oh, Amy.
Sorry,
Yeah, hi.
it was Amy. I've been working on a lot of the things that you're talking about, and I find myself, because I came from the hustle, the hustle bustle, I still haven't managed to move out of that. So I find myself getting frustrated and angry because I'm focusing on it. I'm trying to imagine and associate the feelings with it and everything. But then when it doesn't happen, I'm like, what? Why am I just think I need to push harder or think about it more, or you know what I mean? I don't know,
Yeah.
because that's just my way, the way I'm trying to get away from that, push so hard, work so hard, let it come to me. But I find myself continuously going back to that because I feel like if I'm not doing anything, that if I'm not, I mean, not doing anything because I am doing things, but where am I missing something in there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So I know in my own body, when I feel like I'm like pushing really hard for something, I'm actually not in alignment with it. So
Okay.
this is a really important check-in is, am I feeling like I've got to like push this one up the hill? Or am I feeling like, man, like, hey, I just need to grind it out. You're not in a state that's a match for it. Okay. So we want to remember, what you're looking to create, the 7-figure version of you, there's the thought component of it. There's also the feeling component of it. I'm assuming you're not looking to step into this because you want more hustle, more push, more like just hard work and efforting, right? So if you are in that state, that's a really good time to actually step away. So this is something else I teach because like I said, we've got men, women, we got all genders in the community. When I'm working specifically with the women in our community, this is something that is so empowering for them to learn, is that you as a woman are wired to receive. You are wired to receive. So when we are constantly out, pushing, it's like you're constantly exhaling and you're never inhaling. And if you were constantly exhaling and you never inhaled, what would happen?
Stop breathing.
You'd stop breathing and you would die. So yeah. So it's not that there's not going to be action, Amy, but the action steps that are going to get you there are the ones that come from you doing the inner work first to feel like what you want has already happened. And then from that place, it will be send out this, I don't know what you use. It'd be like, send out this email, make this phone call, go to this conference, hire this mentor, do this thing, reach out to this person, and you'll be guided there. And it will feel uncomfortable because it won't be things you've been doing before, but it's not going to feel like hustle. Does that make sense? The difference?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I know we are, oh, you're so welcome. Oh yeah, Amanda, I'm so excited you're joining us. I can't wait to work with you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here these past few days. I've loved this time with you. Again, if you feel called and you want to join us and meet the $1 Million You, we kick off next Tuesday. It's elisearcher.com/$1 Million You. The code Million VIP will get you $500 off through midnight tonight. So come join us, come play. It's going to be amazing. And wherever we go from here, so much love to each of you. I'm grateful for you. And please reach out, elise@elisearcher.com, if my team and I can be of any further support to you from here. All right. Lots of love, everyone. Take care. See you soon.